Hey, everybody. Yep, it is Wednesday. It is time for the Witches Movie Coven. So grab your goat. It's a good start. Grab your goat, grab a drink, grab some popcorn. It is time for Witches to talk about witches. I am Patti Negri, one of your hosts. We have the lovely and educated and talented Heather Greene right here, who wrote the infinite book on Witches of Movie. We have Richard-Lael Lillard in between two ferns today. Everybody's favorite Richard-Lael Lillard. We have Jason Mankey, our beautiful haired blonde, and Courtney looks a little different today. Actually, Black Phillip looks a little different today. Courtney is not with us. She may make a little appearance if she can, but we have a very special guest, a new friend of mine. You may have seen her on the Witching Hour, Cardsy B. So welcome, Cardsy B.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. This is my my goat. She's a live goat. This is Lola the Dom Pom. She loves the film as well.
That's fabulous. So welcome for jumping in last minute. Happy to have you, a new witch into the mix. Don't expect us to all agree on anything ever. So we talk about the movies, we talk about witches and movies. I guess let's save all our intros for the end. I like to switch it back and forth so they never know what to expect. So let's save what we're doing and intros and things for the end. So let's talk about the movie, I guess. Sleepy Hollow. I actually don't think I had seen it before either, Jason, which surprises me, a Johnny Depp film. So
Right.
Heather, do you have information for us on the basics? And then we'll move over to Richard-Lael to give us the plot.
Well, I think there's a lot of interesting things we can talk about this film. First of all, I like to set it in time. So, that is the way I did my book, is setting the witch movies in time, because that's very important in how the witch is represented and how witchcraft is and how mysticism is, really. So this is 1999. Let's go back and party like it's 1999. And this was the end of the witchcraft craze that happened, the period of time that happened where witchcraft movies were very popular. Most of those movies were not oriented towards legends and fairy tales. This one is. At the same time, we were seeing, it was just before the Blair Witch Project, or just as that was coming out, we saw a host of other TV shows, mostly at this point, that were very positive in their representation of witchcraft, or more positive than we saw. So The Craft in 1996 changed everything, followed by Charm, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we started to see witchcraft represented as either evil witchcraft or Wicca. Okay. I'm going to talk about those delineations and whether they're good and bad in my book. But this is what was happening at the time. This movie does not fit that mold. And there were a number of movies that did still reflect the earlier 1990 movies, more like what you saw in, the Witchcraft, or what we saw Pumpkinhead, or Hocus Pocus, and those movies of the early 90s, which were more satanic panic stuff. So that's what we're talking about here. But what I want to talk about, and I'm going to stop before I get into it, because I can go on a lecture for 2 hours, is that this movie takes place in New York State. And while Salem tends to get a lot of attention when it comes to Hollywood films with mysticism, or the Appalachian Ozark, which was a question last week, gets a lot of attention when it comes to American witchcraft, folk witchcraft, and mysticism, New York State has a haunting feeling and energy unlike any other part of the country. It has its own haunting feel. I am from a town that is only a short drive south of where this legend comes from, which is Tarrytown, New York. And it is right on the Hudson River, Tarrytown. It exists. I've been there. It is directly across the river from a city called Nyack, which is a very small, also very witchy city. And I went to school in Ithaca. I've been all around the state, on that side of the state. And there's this feeling there. It's different than the Massachusetts feel, different than the Massachusetts energy, that is very haunting. And I would like to read, not right now, but I will do it later if there's time and opportunity, a little bit of what Washington Irving said about the area, which is very interesting because Washington Irving is the actual writer, the author of this story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And it comes out of his own experience. His house is still in Tarrytown in that area. This story retains a lot of that lore and legend, similar to what we see with Salem films, retaining the legend, the feel of the town, similar to voodoo films, retaining the culture and the feel of New Orleans. So this is very much a New York City story. And there is origins, there is history with it. So yes. I'll talk about that a little bit as I get opportunity, but I'll pass it on to Richard-Lael, who's actually going to tell us what Washington Irving really was telling us, according to the director.
Well, yes, I will say that it does stray far from the Washington Irving story. As a film, it works even if it is divorced from the original source material. Before I get into the plot line, though, I will tell you that when I moved to New York, I love Sleepy Hollow. I love the book Washington Irving had written. I love it. And when I went to New York, I actually went through Nyack, and it was in the evening time, and it was at the end of winter. And as I would come down those little hollows, little country dark roads, and those trees growing in over the roads, and that mist and the glow of the moon, it is absolutely magical. And I went, wow, this is why. 2 hours from New York City by car, but you might as well be in a whole other planet. There is no feeling like upstate New York for magic. Everything else has its own too, but it cannot be forgotten. New York State cannot be forgotten in its magic lore. So in this rendition of Sleepy Hollow, it is inspired by the writings of Washington Irving. And I say inspired by because unlike some of the other films that were taking place around the same time, like Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola made certain that it was Bram Stoker's Dracula. However, Tim Burton did not say that this was Washington Irving's Sleepy Hollow because it's not. However, let's get into the plot of this film. So this film takes place in the year of our Lord, 1799, just as they embark on a new century. Mind you, it's being filmed in the year 1999. So it is 100 years removed, and the excitement that fills the new century. So in New York City, a constable, a detective, Johnny Depp, Ichabod Crane. He is brilliant at solving murders. He's sort of a little bit Sherlock Holmes, but entirely much more dense. And he finds that there is a dead body that has been floating in the river, and he wants to do an autopsy. And the constable, the judge, who is, of course, Christopher Lee, says, it's dead. Obviously, it drowned. If it's dead, it drowned. It's in the river. It drowned. And so sort of because he is doing all of these things that are not popular amongst constables of the late 18th century, he is sent to the small little town outside, way up north, New York State. And of course, it was not by car, so it was many hours away from New York City. And he gets to this little village, this little hamlet in a hollow, Sleepy Hollow. And he, being a man of science, does not believe in magic or ghosts. He does not believe in it. There is nothing that can convince him until he meets Ms. Van Tassel and her romantic partner of Beau Brummel, not Beau Brummel, Beau. Oh,
Beau Brummel.
He's dead in there anyway. He doesn't last long. Beau something or other. Anyway, so they have this chance encounter, and then he's introduced to, of course, all of these bodies that have no heads. And when they have no heads, they've been cauterized, and as if a blade of Satan has come from the depths of Hades and severed their heads, cauterizing the wound. And then he ends up by meeting the Headless Horseman. Christopher Walken, who was a Hessian soldier sent by the Germans to help sort of keep the Americans in line. And he loses his head thanks to, of course, he goes into the woods and he meets two little twin girls whose mother was put in exile. As it turns out, more people get murdered. He tries to figure it out. They gather in the church. They figure out that everyone has something to do with it. The pastor has something to do with it. The barrister has something to do with it. They're all sort of connected, and they're all big names in and of themselves. And of course, it's sacred ground. So the Headless Horseman cannot come on sacred ground. He ends up by killing the Van Tassel, leaving, of course, the widow who's now dead and the child who is cast this big spell of protection. And of course, Ichabod Crane thinks that she was controlling the Headless Horseman the entire time, and that he is headed back to New York City because clearly she controls the Headless Horseman. Only to realize, as he's in the carriage away, that it was an illusion. Things are always, it's an illusion. But where the witchcraft comes in is that you find out that the twin girls were raised by a witch, and one grows up to be Mrs. Van Tassel, the stepmother of the young lady Christina Ricci played. And they are witches together, and the one witch, the sister, stays in the wood, and she dresses in black veils and she cuts heads off bats, and the other one wears fine clothing and lives in a fine mansion. And of course, you think that she's dead because she has taken the body double of her maid and sliced her head off. But you find out also that in all of these hallucinations that Ichabod Crane's mother was also a witch. She taught him witchcraft and magic and illusions, much to the chagrin of his very austere 18th century father. Long story short, we come back. He realizes that everything is an illusion. It is not exactly as what he had thought. And he really is in love with Erica Van Tassel, I think is the name, with Christina Ricci's character. And then the stepmother returns, and she has called the Headless Horseman for one more raid to steal the head of the young Van Tassel, so that she, the widow, inherits everything. But as luck would have it, they remove the head from the witch who has been holding on to this skull for who knows how long, and then throws it at the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman puts that head back in his space. All of the in wonderful, glorious 1990s CGI, all of the flesh comes back, and Christopher Walken grunts, because that's all he does in the entire film. And then he kisses the witch with razor-sharp teeth. He has razor-sharp teeth, kisses her on the lips, blood gushes, and she screams, "Ah!" as she gets dragged back into the tree of death, into hell, presumably where she belongs, because that's where witches belong, apparently. And then the good witch in the young Van Tassel marries Ichabod Crane, and they end up starting a new life and a new century in New York City. The end. Roll credits.
Beautiful. Yay. Tears.
It's really a romance, Patti, isn't it?
It is. It's a romance. It is. And you see them and you see it's a romance. And I love the happy ever after ending. It's like finally a beautiful happy ever after. The little boy gets a family. You forgot the little boy.
Oh, I did forget the little boy.
Ugh, it's too neat. It's too clean. Like the The original Legend of Sleepy Hollow does not have a happy ending. There's no reason for this to have a happy ending.
To make me happy, to make everybody watched it, to make a happy ending. The little boy has a family. They have a new life. Though I must say, I have never seen more chopped off heads in any film ever. That is like the head chopping is that bucket of blood our saying t-shirt needs adjustment. I don't know. That was a lot of heads. Anyway, that's all. I just want to say, free little boy.
The heads were not bloody because, again, the sword cauterizes them clean off.
Yeah. Still, it's a lot of heads.
It was a lot of heads.
A lot of heads. It got to me, a lot of heads.
Heads you win. Heads they win.
It wasn't too gory for me. I'm kind of sensitive about the gore, and I really want the gore to be purposeful and serve the story, not vice versa. The only part that I thought was gratuitous was the reinvigoration of Christopher Walken's character in the Headless Horseman. I didn't think that was completely necessary. I thought that was ridiculous. But aside from that, I didn't mind all the heads because, I mean, that's what he was doing. And it wasn't gory. So it didn't bother me too much. I just think the whole Christopher Walken
reanimated corpse.
Yeah, that was not necessary. They could have done it with all that, without all that. That was showing off their technology, essentially, is what that was.
Yeah.
You know, I have to say that even though it is not the Washington Irving telling of Sleepy Hollow, if you look at it as a modern to 1999, as a modern day Hammer film, then it's absolutely brilliant. In the same way that when we look back at some of the ones from the 70s, like Dracula, and with Christopher Lee, who of course was in the film. When we look at all of the Dracula incarnations of the Hammer horror, it had things, the colors were these sort of muted, dark colors. The blood was completely, it's sort of like an orangey color. Whenever there is blood, it's kind of like an orangey color. And it's the same color scheme that one would find in a 1970s Hammer film. So if you look at it as a Hammer film, it's brilliant. They were never accurate to the original source material either. None of them. No Hammer film who was banking on classic horror was ever accurate to the source material.
You know, I didn't catch the reference to the Hammer film until you're saying that now, but that was the one thing that's always stood out about this movie to me was the color scheme of the black and white with only the pops of kind of muted orange. And I think that was one of the most iconic and well done parts of the movie.
Absolutely. I love the blues and oranges. It's stunning. It is so stunning.
I mean, everything Tim Burton makes is beautiful.
Absolutely.
Regardless of how you end up feeling about the film as a story, it's always something that is a treat for the eyes. And this is no different.
Absolutely.
I want to go what Haley just said, because I don't. Did you all see the secret references Tim put in? Do we know what those are?
You're talking about the musical reference at the end? The Bronx is up and the battery's down? Because I got that one.
I got that one. Yeah, I don't know. So Haley, let us know what you mean, because we obviously don't get it. So okay, so let's go around and talk about Jason.
I mean, it's a fine movie. It's not. I don't think it reinvents the wheel. When I was doing my social media advertising for this, I think I said it's everyone's fourth or fifth favorite Tim Burton film, and I think that's probably true. It's a serviceable, fun movie. I had a great time watching it. I've never seen it before now. I will say I really like the Christina Ricci character, though, using magic and using that charm under the bed. Mm-hmm. And to our eyes today, that looks like something that maybe they would not have used in 1799, but it's very much something that they would have used in 1799. There are a great many sigils that look exactly like that. People had access to the Solomon books.
Solomon.
So the Lesser Key of Solomon. So yeah, so I thought that was a really nice touch, and I loved that part of it, even though it was very fleeting and small. Yeah, you
I
know,
don't think it was fleeting and small. I mean, that was a major piece of the defining moment of her character.
but they
And,
could have done more with it, though. They could have
well,
done more.
I don't think it was I don't think it was small, and I think that might have been one of the few real depictions of any kind of magic, actually, that you could point your finger at in this film. So
Yeah.
I don't think it was as small as it was. Kind of neat, interesting piece. And I think that would not have happened if this had movie been made 10 years earlier. Because this was produced at a time when aspects of magic were being allowed to be treated as positive. Whereas 10 years earlier, that would not have been the case. So this movie would have been written a little differently just a short time earlier, prior to The Craft.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting point you bring up.
Right. Thank you. Oh wait, Cardzi, what your thoughts on everything?
You know, I have to agree with you, Patty, because I loved, even if it's cheesy, even if they did like a Hollywood ending, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm an optimist by nature. And I have to say, witches and lesbians in film rarely get a happy romantic ending. So I was like all about this one. And that's why it's actually one of the kind of witch films that I think of when I'm like, oh, I want like a little bit of like romance in it. I love that about Sleepy Hollow.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. And you're right. It's true. Witches and lesbians. There's
We always, but like, as a lesbian witch, I feel like there's some great films, but there are always these tragic endings where one in the couple dies, and it's usually the witch. So I was happy to see that they had their happy ever after New York City life.
Yeah, me too. Richard-Lael.
I am going to say its lack of pumpkins, of jack-o'-lanterns, was disturbing. However, I will say this. I will say that the reason that they didn't have more pumpkins in this is because to put out jack-o'-lanterns before October is premature ejaculantern.
Oh. Oh.
How long did you work on that? That was good.
Wasn't it? I loved the film. I thought it was really beautiful. I love both. I love this film, but I also really love the original version. And for those of you who don't know, there was actually a Hessian soldier in the Revolutionary War who lost his head because of cannon fire. Mm-hmm. And this, because it is Sleepy Hollow, because it is upstate New York, there was a fellow who came into town who was a school teacher who was very timid. There was a Van Tassel who was in love with a young man named Beau, but there was one man they didn't know which one it was. One was a blacksmith and one was something else. I don't remember exactly, but the characters were real. And they actually tricked this fellow they already knew the legend of this Headless Horseman, this man who was an artilleryman, who was a German Hessian soldier who had lost his head. They knew this story. And so one of them actually dressed up as this sort of character to scare the person who inspired Ichabod Crane. They scared him so that he would propose to his girlfriend, strangely enough.
I like the fake out in the beginning of the movie where you see throwing the pumpkin head, right? Because that is usually how we think of the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Mm-hmm. And having not seen this film before, I watched it on Sunday night. I thought that was a really fun thing. I'll also say that I love every scene with the Headless Horseman when he's headless. There's a presence there, and that costume is really, really great.
Yeah, I think that Tim Burton is an artist. He's a film artist. You cannot watch this film and not see it as absolutely cinematically beautiful. He's also a storyteller. So what I love about him is story always comes first. And that, to me, is the epitome of a good film, is the story comes first. Everything else serves the story. Now, with the exception of the disgusting Christopher Walken reappearance at the end, I think everything else really did serve the film, the story. And what really I loved right from the beginning, you saw the Hudson School of Art coming out. He was capturing the Hudson River And that area, the Tappan Zee area where this story emanates from, he was capturing it in cinematic film. I mean, if you go back to the 1800s and you look at, there's a school of art called the Hudson River School. And they're beautiful landscapes, not my style of art, but if you look at them, you can see them capturing the magic of that area that, you know, both Richard-Lael and I have talked about. If you've been to the area, again, I can only describe it as is that the magic, for example, in Salem is more intense. It's more dense. You feel the threads. You can see the threads there in the New England area. In upstate New York, the energy and the magic and that feel, it's more amorphous. It's a cloud. It's wider. It sits like the fog. You go into it and it's there. It emanates from the mountains, from not Appalachia. Sorry, I've been in the South too long. From the Adirondacks and the Cayuga Lake, where I went to school in Ithaca, from the just the beautiful mountain ranges throughout the Finger Lakes, etc. So you feel it in the land there, and he captures that in this film beautifully with the cinematography, and that cinematography. That Hudson River School lends itself to the telling of a legend, which is what we have here. And yeah, you can visit these places. Sunny Vale. What's the name of someone remind me of the name of his house. It's there, Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, and all of that. And I've been there. So you can visit it and feel it. It's really, really cool. I think that getting back to my point, which was that Tim Burton captures all of that just through the imagery beautifully. I have some problems with some of the other aspects of the film. I don't think it was perfect. I don't think it's my favorite Tim Burton film. And sadly, I didn't like Christopher Walken. I'm going to just state it. I think he was better, like Jason said. He was better without his head. Mm-hmm. The teeth and that thing, I think it was over the top. I also think Tim Burton, and including Johnny Depp, added right there. We didn't need that. We didn't need that. Thank you, Christopher Walken.
But his costume is stunning.
His costume is stunning, but he didn't need his head for that. Like, we could have done without the Christopher Walken head. I think it was over the top. And I think he and both Johnny Depp capture a little bit too much of the comedy aspect of what they do. I think if this had been played a little bit more straight, it would have been better. I think there was just a little bit too of the, what's the comedy? It's a dark comedy that he tends to do, that I think failed the movie, unfortunately. And like the moment, and you can see it in Johnny Depp's character, and although this is pre-Pirates of the Caribbean, the Johnny Depp kind of subtle humor that he adds into things works great in Pirates of the Caribbean with that character, and with, for example, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This one, I wish he had played more straight. I wish there was less of the comedy. I think it would have worked better. And I think Tim Burton, they should have been a little bit more straight and narrow with this one and played into the beauty and the legend and the mysticism.
I still got the beauty and the magic and the mysticism and everything. And I didn't mind that Johnny Deppness of Johnny Depp, because that's the Johnny Depp.
That's Johnny Depp.
I don't know. It just gave him a little more humanity than just the Sherlock Holmes of this, of the detective. It gave him some humanity to me, a little bit of humanness like this. And on that same note, I kind of liked how, there was first that fake headman, the guy pretending he was a headman. I kept a little bit of like, maybe none of this is real magic. Maybe this really is a setup. And I like thinking that possibility throughout until, oh my gosh, these really are creatures from hell. And oh my gosh, these really are. I went along for the ride with it, which I really liked. And I like Christopher Walken, so shut up.
I like Christopher Walken.
I like Christopher Walken.
I love Christopher Walken.
Just not in this app. Just not here.
However, I will say, our friend Chad, told us a little bit about the garments that were worn by the Headless Horseman. So he had 3 capes. You wouldn't know it unless you really knew it, but he had 3 capes. When he's riding on the horse, his cape is 3 foot longer than it normally would be, so that it would billow behind him and flow. And then he's got a shorter one for when he's walking that only comes down to his down to the ground. And then there's a shorter one even still, so that when he's doing action, so this dead spirit has the foresight to change cloaks, knowing what he doesn't have a head. How can he rest without a head?
Right. That's brilliant, though. That's brilliant on the costume designer, whoever, to get the whole feel of when you're on a horse, and because it would have ruined it had he tripped over his cape.
And someone also talked about the dress at the end that Christina Ricci wears, the striped dress. Again, this comes from Chad, who works in costuming. And he said originally that when the dress was made, it was only cream satin. And they wanted it to look a little bit, they wanted it to look like it was hand done. So all of those stripes were done in Sharpie, like you would, like a launder marker. And then it's trimmed in green so that it has a little bit of, but all of those were hand drawn, and it was just cream fabric.
I agree. That was the best costume in the whole movie. Whoever said that, absolutely, I agree 100%.
Stunning.
I want it.
Good. All right, Heather, your thoughts?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I gave my thoughts, but I'm going to give my more thoughts.
No. I thought you were saving your thoughts.
Oh, no. I think this movie, like I said, I think it's a beautiful Tim Burton movie, because almost every movie that I can think of, I can't think of a Tim Burton movie I can't say is not beautiful. I think Johnny Depp is probably one of our most treasured actors. I think he is always brilliant. Mm-hmm. It's hard to complain. If I complained about Johnny Depp, it's usually nuanced stuff. And like I said, I wish he had played this a little bit straighter. But I think at the time, if I had seen this in 1999, and I don't think I did, I don't remember. I had seen parts of it. I don't think I'd seen the whole thing. If I had seen it in 1999, I probably would not have been as bothered by it, because I would not have seen Pirates of the Caribbean. I wouldn't have seen all of the other characters he would have done, and it wouldn't have felt so Johnny Depp. After we've watched so many Johnny Depp movies now, we go, oh yeah, this is Johnny Depp playing Ichabod Crane. I am a big fan of the, I knew this story from Disney, so I have a hard time letting go of the scrawny misbehavior of the Disney Ichabod Crane, which is closer to Washington Irving's description. So I think I enjoyed it. I think as a movie separated and sort of inspired by, like Richard-Lael said, I think it works as a movie. It works as a fun movie to watch. I don't think it's here nor there. I don't think it's gonna, break any banks or win any awards. But what did you say, Jason? It's our 5th favorite.
Fourth or fifth favorite Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, it fits into that. It's a good Halloween movie. It's a good just standard to watch if you feel like it. I would add that, the one thing that's interesting about this period, because I always bring it back to history, is that there were a bunch of different movies at this time that did take older stories and add witches into them, which is what this did because of the period of time. Because, hey, witches are popular. Let's stick a witch in an old legend, and we'll make some money on it. We'll make more money on it, box office. And I'm thinking specifically of a movie that was done in the late 80s, a Poe story, and it's going to come to me in a second. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there was no witch in the original Edgar Allan Poe story. They added witches in because this was a witch period, and this is no different than that. So I think it works on its own level.
I did watch it in 1999 in the theater, and I was so enthralled because I knew it was not the Washington Irving. I knew that it was not Disney, but I did watch it. And when you see it on the big screen, and mind you, there was at the time, there was not Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka. There was not Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. There was not Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. It was just He was fresh off of what? Jump Street, 21 Jump Street. Like, not, this is 1999. So like you've only had a few films that he's done, and it was refreshing. I did love it. And really, I guess what we really forgot to mention too is that it is a Halloween film because, according to the legend, the German soldier, the Hessian, was actually beheaded the 31st of October. So that is why, of course, in more modern retellings, why he has a jack-o'-lantern head, which, and we didn't even talk about that, and I don't want to take up too much time, but why is there a jack-o'-lantern head? It's because of the legend of Stingy Jack. Jack was it was just a name that was given, but there was a lot of Jack stories, Jack and the Beanstalk, Jack and the Giant Killer. Anyway, so Jack was stingy, and he was also a trickster. And so he told the devil, he says, "Devil," he says, "I tell you what, why don't you, you can have my soul, but first let's go and get a drink." And he goes in and he says, "Oh, devil, I don't have a coin. Can you turn into a coin?" So he turns into a coin, and he puts a crucifix inside that bag with the devil. And of course, the crucifix makes the devil so that he has to stay a coin. He can't move because of the crucifix. And so the devil says, "Please let me out. Please let me out. Please let me out." And he says, "All right, devil, I'll let you out, but only if you do not come for my soul for 10 years. And the devil says, "Please let me out. I'll do anything." So he lets him out. So the devil comes down the street 10 years later, and he says, "Jack, time has come. Now is the time, Jack. Now is time you have to come with me." And he says, "Oh, you're right, oh devil. Oh, you're right. However, grant me one final request. Grant me one final thing. I would love an apple from that tree." And so the devil says, "All right, you know what? I will give you an apple. I will give you one final request. I'll get that apple for you." And so the devil goes up in the tree, and Jack carves crosses in the tree really quickly, and the devil cannot come down. And he says, "Oh no, now I'm stuck in the tree. What am I to do? I have business. I have souls that I have to take." And Jack says, "I tell you what, oh devil, I tell you what, I will let you down out of this tree. I'll chop the tree down and you can jump off. I'll let you down, but you can never, 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 never take me to hell." And the devil says, "I'm desperate. I will do anything. I will do anything." All right. So he chops the tree down. And then he eventually dies. He lives to be an old man, and he eventually dies. Unfortunately, when he gets to heaven, he was such a naughty character that St. Peter says, "I'm sorry, old Stingy Jack. You can't enter the kingdom of heaven. And so you must go down to hell." So he gets to the gates of hell, and Satan says, "Oh, no, you don't. A deal is a deal. You cannot come to hell either." And Jack says, "But I cannot be wandering in the dark. I cannot be wandering alone. What must I do?" And the devil says, "Here's a lump of coal, old Jack." He said, "But it's hot, it's hot, it's hot, it's hot, it's hot." So he puts it in a turnip that he carries around as a lantern with a carved face so that he can see. But then, of course, it gets turned from a gourd into a pumpkin as we move to the United States. And that's the story why, of course, it's Halloween, why the Headless Horseman, he has the flaming. It's because it's a continuation of the Stingy Jack story.
Oh my God, Richard-Lael. I've done public ritual at Halloween, Samhain, for so many years where we had a Stingy Jack and we put all these little coins in it and we burned the whole effigy. And I never knew this whole story. I mean, I knew the lantern in this and turnips in Europe and thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's like, I don't know why we're burning this Stingy Jack, and here's the coins, and that's wild. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Just a plethora of information.
Well, if I'm ever on a game show, I hope I can remember all of this trivia if I'm ever on a game show.
All right.
Why was it originally a turnip? Sorry for the distraction. Now I'm in the rabbit hole. Why?
Oh, well, it was originally a turnip because that was what grew typically in Ireland. And then, of course, it turns more into a gourd as you travel. And then in the United States, it was this fruit, because that's what a pumpkin is. A pumpkin is a fruit. It's not a vegetable. This fruit, people found that it was great for carving, that it could retain its shape. It was bigger so that you could reach into it, but it was a turnip because that was what was available.
And the folk magic from the British Isles came with the people here. So if they couldn't find a turnip or whatever other folk magics, they used what was here. So that makes sense.
That's beautiful. And I heard they just didn't really have pumpkins there.
No, it's a New World berry, because they're technically berries, not just fruits, but berries.
Berries.
Yes, because when you think of a berry cereal, you think of pumpkin.
No. All right. Okay. Before we get into voting, which we're getting very close to voting, anything else anybody wants to talk about? I want to say thank you to everybody. You guys have had some great insights and information and questions along the way in the chat room. Some of them we get to put up here, some of them we don't, but we really appreciate your chat room here.
I do want to answer a question that came up. So someone asked what movie about the Poe movie. It's Pit and the Pendulum. That's the one I was thinking of. I think it's like a 1991. It's a fantastic horror movie. They injected witches in it, and it has some really cool witch stuff in it. So that's what I was thinking of. I also want to note, someone said something about there being witches or witchcraft in the original story. There is, and that was a segment I was going to read, but we're running out of time. But if you look at this first or second paragraph of the story, Washington Irving talks about the magic and the mysticism and the witchcraft and the witches of the area. So I wasn't saying that that he does not recognize that. Most certainly he does recognize that. But this film is far and away different and injects a 1980s, 1990s satanic panic story into what Irving was doing that was not originally there. So that was my point. It's not that the magic wasn't there in the original, but we have a very different, very satanic, very modern 80s, 90s plot line propelling this particular film.
Thank you. And Haley says she wants to know why Richard's eyes are flashing red 3 times. It's because you called him Richard.
That is true. For those of you at home, it is Richard-Lael. It's one word. All hail Richard-Lael. That's really what it is. I know it's a mouthful, but actually, I'll tell you a little bit of, not to steal, but I will tell you. So I was born Richard-Lael Lillard. That's my birth name, and it was a lot. So when I was a kid, I went by Rich and I went by Richie, and as an adult, I can't, and I can't. I tried to do Richard, and I tried variants, and I just never really liked it. I could never like it. And then when I found out what the name means, then I went, oh, I love it. It's perfect. It's exactly. So Richard is Middle English, and it means powerful ruler. And then Lael in ancient Aramaic, it means chosen of the horned god El, Lael. And the surname of Lillard I was going to say a word that could be, well, it's a bastardization of the word Lillard, which means heretic, witch, spellcaster, mumbler, accuser of the faith, opposer of the brethren. Anyway, that's what the name means. So as an adult, I went, oh, I like it.
Perfect name.
We have talked about Christopher Walken, Christina Ricci, and Johnny Depp, but there's a lot, and a little bit about Christopher Lee, but there's some really great actors in this film. This is almost like a proto Harry Potter in that you have Dumbledore in this film, you have Rita Skeeter in this film, and you have Uncle Dursley in this film, right? I mean, this is a really terrific cast.
Great cast
for a horror movie. Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Only Tim Burton at this point could command probably that. I mean, if you think about where he was in his career at this point, Tim Burton could command a cast like this. And it was like every turn of the page, so to speak. It's like, oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that actor. Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, to have Christopher Walken appear like he did, I mean, that was pretty big deal. Although we could have done without him, but that's okay. I like Christopher Walken, Patty. I really like Christopher Walken, but not in this role.
I watch these movies with my wife, and like in the middle of it, I'm like, oh my God, that's so-and-so. Like in this one, I went, oh no, look, there's Gandalf. And she like punched me because I got my Dumbledore and my Gandalf confused there for a couple of minutes. I knew what I meant. It just didn't come out correctly.
That's okay. You got punched as a correction. Okay.
It was. I endured physical violence for this show almost weekly.
And it's well worth it. And we appreciate that you are here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess it is time to vote. Wands up. What? No, what?
I've got my synopsis of
this
gosh,
movie. Yes, this is a new thing we can never ever forget. One of the best parts of the show.
Now this was harder because I liked this movie. So it's not as funny as the other ones. All right. So, announcer voice. Enter a world before Jack Sparrow, when Johnny Depp was capable of playing more than just the same character over and over. Get wrapped up in the plots of a gentleman farmer Dumbledore and his witchcraft-loving wife, Rita Skeeter. Thrill to the 17 years between Christina Ricci and her love interest, Depp. And don't forget, the Headless Horseman is played by Christopher Walken. Find yourself enthralled by the Tim Burtonness of it all. Did you want full color? There's no way you are getting full color. This movie colors palette is gray on gray. Enjoy getting lost in an autumn days in everyone's favorite 4th or 5th Tim Burton movie, and the only version of Sleepy Hollow with a happy ending. The happy ending? Is this really a Tim Burton movie?
Bravo!
Bravo!
So you had to work harder at it because you liked the movie, and it was very good. See?
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Yeah, that's your new job, Jason.
It's 3 weeks in a row. Thank you.
Yes.
This is our Emmy right here. This is our Emmy.
This is our Emmy. This is great. And we did pick next week's movie before we vote, correct? We did? The Craft 2.
Yeah.
The Craft 2.
We're returning. It's the
Legacy.
Return of the Craft.
Return of the Craft. Legacy. Yes.
Craft Legacy, right? Yeah.
Legacy.
All right. So that's what we're all watching for next week. So you guys watch it too. But before we do that, we have to wands up or wands down or finger wands or goat horns or whatever else. Sleepy Hollow. Wands up, wands down.
Thank you, Courtney.
Up.
There we go.
Okay. We've got skulls up, wands up, wands. Yours is completely up, Jason. Yours is.
It is not completely up. This is not a perfect movie. I wish someone had died at the end. I think it would have been better if Christina Ricci had said ha 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 and killed Johnny Depp and taken all the money for herself and married someone else. But, I still liked it. If this is on an autumn night, I'm going to watch it again.
You are so a 2023 viewer, Jason. You're showing your colors right there. You want that. This is still 1999. There were still happy endings in Hollywood.
I did not want that. I did not want that happy ending. I wanted off with Ichabod's head. So it can't be full up for me. But it's close.
And we've got Robert wands way up, Tabitha wands up, Lisa wands up, way up for Joni, wands way up for Amber, Tabitha, happy face, Sean wands up. And they died throughout. They don't have to die at the end. So anyway, Heather, you are the least loving of this film of everybody.
Yeah, I thought it was forgettable. I love the story. I love the area. I love the Headless Horseman. I've been, and all the things, and I love the people in it. I guess it's sort of where Jason is. I don't care about the happy ending. I love happy endings, but it's the fourth or fifth favorite Johnny Depp and Tim Burton film. Yeah, just
I mean, this might be, for me, it might be my number 2, actually.
Yeah.
Ironically, my number 1 is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I know everyone hates that, but I love every second of it.
Oh,
okay.
oh.
Yeah, get that spray out. I need a Jason pass it over here, please.
Yes, there you go, Heather.
Thank you.
No.
I really love this film, and I really love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory more than I can say.
Good. Perfect.
Wait, I
Until
actually have
Timothy-
spray over there. I need to make sure that's out the next time I come on the show because I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth.
Until Timothy Chalamet steals it all as Wonka this Christmas. No one's feeling that.
No, you know what? I love Willy Wonka. I love Willy Wonka, and I love the Depp version because it was so much closer to the book than the travesty of the 1976 Gene Wilder crap. Also, Gene Wilder was Willy Wonka has a high and melodic voice, and Gene Wilder says, "Good day, sir." I said, "Good day." I hated every second of it. I hated it. I hated it.
You know what? You're ruining my childhood, so I'm going to say goodnight. Goodbye.
I'm
Just cut
out.
you. All right.
I'm out. I'm out. This was too much.
Where's my spray? I got to get my spray.
This was too much. I feel bad for Cardsy B that she had to see the breakup of the coven live behind the scenes tonight. But there's just too much information here, Richard-Lael.
Wait, I brought costuming.
We're struggling.
Beautiful.
I bought costuming. All right. So everybody, I want to give Cardsy some time. Cardsy, tell us a little bit about you, what you've been up to, where people can find you, what you got going on.
Yes, thank you so much, Patti. It's such an honor to be here at my first official movie hour. I'm Cardsy B. You can find everything at cardsyb.com, Cardsy B on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm also the author of The Saturn Diaries.
Thank you so much. You guys, it's great. It's a great book. I have it. So check her out, Cardsy B. And all right, Richard-Lael Lillard, what do you have going on?
Yes, well, I will be in Youngstown, Ohio, the 26th, 27th, 28th. And then I will be here in New Orleans, and you can find me anywhere good Gentleman Psychics are sold under thegentlemanpsychic.com or on, you can find Richard-Lael Lillard at all of the medias of social. I'm easy to be found.
Thank you very much. All right, Jason.
I'm Jason. I'm like the one of only 4 Jason Mankeys in the entire United States, and I come up first in all Google searches, much to their chagrin, especially the one who's a pastor. I will be at the Gathering of Souls, which is outside of Memphis, Tennessee, October 13th, 14th, and 15th. I think there's still a couple of days left to sign up for that. And then I will be at Las Vegas Pagan Pride, November 11th, which is a Saturday, which I'm super excited about. And if you're in Vegas on October 22nd, I'll be at the When We Were Young Festival, just rocking out to Blink-182 and Green Day, because I'm like that. And I'm also thrilled about that. Yeah. And thank you for all the nice words about my great movie announcer voice. I really appreciate that, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah. The voice and the text. It's beautiful. So, all right, Heather.
Yeah, hi. So it's getting to be October season. So I always like to tell people, if you're going to start your movie watching for the witch season, I wrote, this is my book, Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. And it has lists and lists, as well as text and stuff we talk about, stuff we don't talk about, details, written for the witch, written for the movie buff, and you have lists of movies that you can get. So this is a great gift for Samhain. It's also a great gift to get before you're watching all of this movie season. So, and I am posting on social media, and I always do a 31 days of witchcraft. I'm picking my theme out. I haven't picked it out. I do it on all my socials. I do 31 days of something witchy in movies. So that's coming up. I'm not traveling, as I always tell everybody. I do have children, and I don't get to travel as much as my lovely coven mates, which is distressing, because I do love seeing them and all of you guys. But I am here working with my authors every day. I have wonderful books coming out. So if you watch my socials, you'll see all the fantastic books that I've worked on that will be coming out in this fall. And fall is our biggest catalog. So we have some really exciting ones coming. I always say that we always have exciting ones coming out, but we have lots of different subjects for all the types of witches and magical people out there. Check out my social medias to see which ones are coming out that I've worked on and my coworkers have worked on, because Jason works with one of my coworkers and she does fantastic books as well, including Jason's 4,000 books that he's written.
It's only 9.
Well, I say 4,000, you say 9. It's not that much different, right? Other than that, I will be here doing that. I'm not traveling anytime soon, so I don't have any announcements. I will let you know. Otherwise, follow me at heathergreene.net. And you can keep up with that. My socials, you can find me on my my website. You can find all my socials there and see what I'm up to and what opinions I have about whatever.
Thank you. Yes, she's a prolific writer. There's all sorts of beautiful things you can find on Heather everywhere. I am still traveling. This weekend, I'm going to be in Baraboo, Wisconsin at the Baraboo Inn doing a whole paranormal ghost hunt seance workshops and things. Next weekend, I'm going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico at this little spiritual center called Resonant something, but it's all on my website. The next weekend I'm going to be in Massachusetts Paracons, which I hopefully will be seeing Miss Courtney. So just the same thing. I'm on all the social medias. It's best to get to it from pattinegri.com, because I now have over 20 fake Patti Negris on TikTok. Over 20, and most of them even use my real name and my real picture, and they don't get busted. So I will never contact you, but so get to all my real stuff from pattinegri.com, my YouTube page, where we can see things like this. I can't wait to, you're my seance, Massachusetts. Yay, I'm so glad you're coming. It's going to be so much fun. It is a magical area there. And that's it. And then October hits. That's all in September, and October gets crazy. And I'm everywhere, but I'm not even going to tell you where. You just have to go look it up. But the thing you all have to do now is check out some merch, you guys. We have mysterycontrol.com, and you could have Witches Movie Coven t-shirts with a whole lot of sayings and quotes. You could have little cover-up blankets. Now we have our own Witches Movie Coven Season 2 Goat unisex hooded cloak, as you can see right here, and all these little funny squares. You could point your phone at them and get there automatically. Magic. It's like the new form of magic. So my Patti's Power Panties are there, my spellcaster line. You can get a Richard-Lael pillow, which we don't even have Courtney here to show today. You could get pretty much anything you want from the underwater on out. For Witches Movie Coven, we have the Bro Witch. We have
shoes.
Bro Witch shoes.
Sorry, I'm really excited about those.
We can use them forever. And just because we love you, if you put code Patti, P-A-T-T-I, you get 25% off anything. And we're practically giving it to you. We're practically paying you to take it. T-shirts.
Why we stand on our head, why we'd eat a bug.
Exactly. So
I have to say the Power Panties, Patti, because you sent me some. I love them, and I wore the Success Panties into a major meeting, and I closed the deal, got a big contract. So these panties are no joke. I cannot recommend them enough, and I will be ordering more.
Thank you. Yes. And I hear that from everybody. I've been doing this like 20 years. Picture the sigil. It's this color. It's this. Everyone comes with a little 30-second spell. It's on the thing, and they work. I have literally, but I can't tell you who, A-list movie stars, Academy Award-winning movie stars, always have the right Power Panties. And now everyone can too, at 25% off. Take photos with y'all and our quote shirts. Yes, Tabitha, please. We love when you guys buy our stuff. Seisha is a friend and one of our students at the school at University Magicus, where Richard-Lael and I teach.
This is our 1-year anniversary of the show.
This
is our anniversary.
Yeah, this has been a year now of shows.
We're gonna do a special show, but is this the actual date?
It's close. It's got to be close. It's got to be.
Either way, it's close.
Happy almost anniversary, everybody.
Happy anniversary, everybody.
We've been doing this almost a whole year, and we haven't killed each other yet, and the coven hasn't fallen apart yet.
We almost did today.
Almost.
Over Willy Wonka.
I'm still not sure about this going forward.
You're really weird.
All right, it is that time. We have one more thing to do. Everybody turn up your volume. Cardsy, join in. What do witches do? Witches cackle. 1, 2, 3.